Hey everyone, it is Dani'i and welcome to this update video. I hope that you are all doing really wonderful today. And so we will be taking a look at Invest 92L, that disturbance, which is to the southwest of the Cabo Verde Islands. And we'll also be talking about what is happening across the Caribbean and the rainfall expected through today. And so before I go into details, please do subscribe if you haven't yet done so and tap the notification bell so that you never miss an important update. Alright, so we are starting out taking a look at sections of the North Atlantic, beginning with sections of Northern and South America. And here we can see that there is some activity noted across some areas, and there isn't a whole lot happening this morning. However, as we head throughout today, it is likely that there is going to be a rainfall increase across some areas. I'll be taking you guys to the rainfall map by the Euro very shortly, but for now we can see that things are in the clear for Aruba, Curacao, Bonaire, going to Trinidad and Tobago. Some passing clouds, maybe they'll dump an isolated shower or so, but there isn't much that is expected. Going to the general Caribbean region here, there is still that persistent activity across the southwestern Caribbean, lots of showers and thunderstorms thanks to a tropical wave in the area, as well as that low pressure that sits over parts of Colombia. And so this is likely going to continue, resulting in all of that heavy rainfall and even that flooding across some areas. So I hope that everyone being impacted by this continuous activity is doing okay. But as we head further into the northern Central American areas, going from Honduras, El Salvador northward to the Yucatan, going back around to the Bay Islands, we're not seeing where much is happening this morning. Similar story for the Cayman Islands, sections of Cuba, the Bahamas, parts of Jamaica, maybe experiencing some cloudy conditions as a result of that activity moving through, but nothing much at this time. Going over into the east, we're also seeing a bit of cloud cover, so there isn't really much happening. And then as we go on to the rainfall total map, we can see here that as this becomes more colorful, more rainfall activity is expected. So we see that most of that is going to be in the southwestern Caribbean, sections of Colombia, where we can see some of the highest totals going to Panama, Costa Rica, sections of Nicaragua and Honduras, especially the eastern sides of those territories. Maybe over into El Salvador and the Pacific coast of Guatemala, there could be some activity, but for the most part, a whole lot isn't expected throughout today for that area. Things should be mainly sunny for Jamaica, maybe an isolated shower or so. Similar story for the Cayman Islands, but there could be a bit more activity in some parts of Cuba, sections of the Dominican Republic, as well as for Puerto Rico, the Virgin and Northern Leeward Islands. And then as we take a look down into northeastern South America, we see that loss of rainfall activity is likely. Again, we'll have that buildup of shower and thunderstorm activity as we head to the afternoon hours. So across parts of Venezuela, Guyana, Suriname, and French Guiana. This has been the trend for some time, so it's really nothing very new. And so the Saharan dust. Now, as we take a look at the latest, as we see more of those shades of oranges and reds, that is when we have more of those denser plumes there. So we can see that across sections of the North Atlantic, there is lots of dust coming all the way from the Sahara Desert in Africa. Now, there we have our disturbance, which is designated Invest 92L. So there we have all that shower and thunderstorm activity in association with it. So conditions should be conducive enough to allow for this to actually develop and become something. And let's zoom into it on satellite. Here we have it, and we can see here that a lot of that shower and thunderstorm activity has dissipated, and that isn't something that is new. Oftentimes with disturbances we see this, but when they're in an unfavorable environment, of course it is unlikely that we're going to be seeing more development of that activity. But with this system here, as we head throughout today, it is likely going to be improving because it should remain in a conducive environment to allow for that to happen. But in terms of development, that can take place to the early to mid part of the week, as stated by the National Hurricane Center. And as we take a look at the outlook map, we can definitely see here that the chance has risen again. It is at 70%. Maybe later this morning or this afternoon, it will raise to 80%. But it seems very likely that we will be looking at a tropical depression and even Tropical Storm BRET heading to later in next week. So let's wait and see what's going to be happening with this. And as I mentioned earlier, there are two factors that will be influencing this system, whether it moves into the Caribbean or it remains in the Atlantic Ocean. So let us go ahead and take a look at what the different models have to show. We're starting out with GFS. So when we see those colors, those greens represent the precipitation rate. Meanwhile, those black lines, those are called isobars, which join areas of equal pressure. And notice that H up there, that is a high pressure. And what do high pressures do? They really help to steer our tropical cyclones because winds flow outward and in a clockwise manner within high pressure systems in the northern hemisphere. So let's see what GFS has to show there. We have the forecast time right there. And as we're going to be heading into Sunday, going to Monday, the model is expecting that we're going to be seeing development rather quickly, and even expecting that this is going to be a pretty compact storm that might even reach hurricane intensity. There we have that high pressure. And so when we see that high pressure migrating toward the east, what happens is that it's going to be given this better opportunity to curve around it and miss the Caribbean, especially if it intensifies quickly. But the longer this takes to develop, the more likely it is to enter the Caribbean, or at least bring some impacts to parts of the Eastern Caribbean. So those are the two factors that will influence this, the rate of development as well as that high pressure. And then going on to the Euro model here. So all these models are being kind of different compared to what we saw yesterday, which is expected. We're talking about a system, a potential storm that isn't very imminent, that we should be paying attention to because it could pose a threat. But as for the latest for the Euro, at one point Euro was showing that this is also going to be strengthened maybe into a hurricane missing the Caribbean. But take a look at this. Euro showing development rather slowly, and has this really just trying to maintain intensity, which is signaling that, hey, there are likely going to be an increase in those unfavorable conditions. And eventually we see that the model has that this will be entering the Caribbean and showing another system behind it. We see those colors indicating lots of moisture, lots of activity within that area. So could this be sort of a new trend? And I mean, as I mentioned in last evening's update, this would be something very rare. This would be historic because this is the kind of activity we should be seeing heading to August, September, not June. So very interesting here. Let's go on to the Canadian model, and it is not really expecting any development. And in that case, maybe we could have a robust tropical wave at the most, propagating westward and actually entering the Caribbean. And in that case, it would bring some substantial rainfall to the east, which is well needed over there. And it is showing that after that system would pass through, we would have the development of two. Actually, there's another one down there. So this is interesting here, what the Canadian model is expecting. But only time will really tell. Now, in terms of different models and what intensity they're expecting, here we have the model intensity guidance for 92L. We can see that most of these are expecting that all of these expect this will become a tropical storm at some point, some showing it becoming a storm sooner rather than later. A couple of these members expecting that we could see this become hurricane. That one, they're expecting a Cat 4, which I see is very, very unlikely at this point in time. And so I will continue to keep you posted on all that is happening across the Atlantic. I'll continue to keep you guys posted on all that is happening and all that is expected. So that is pretty much it for this update, and I hope that you found it to be very informative. But if you have any questions, feel free to leave them down in the comments. I will try to respond as best and as soon as I can. And remember to always be weatherwise.